So good evening. It's glad to have everybody here. So before we get started, before I call the meeting to order, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping order issues here. So as always, I'm going to read the notice. This board meeting is being live streamed for the convenience of the public at www.okaloosaschools.com. The public may participate in the public comment and/or public hearing portions of the meeting by either personal attendance or by calling the school board meeting public participation phone line. A separate seating area has been set aside for the press and public who are in attendance at the meeting in accordance with social distancing guidelines as provided by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. If calling into the meeting, you should call 850-833-3100. The phone lines will be operational beginning at 6 p.m. on the night of the board meeting, and callers will be transferred into the board meeting during the public comment portion and/or public hearing portion of the meeting only, in the order in which the phone calls are received. If you are calling into the meeting to make public comment, please be patient as there may be a wait time while being transferred into the meeting. Also, our school board meeting is being conducted in compliance with the governor's order requiring that school board members can participate via telephone. So the Honorable Dr. White, the Honorable Dr. Diane Kelly, the Honorable Miss Linda Vanchek are all participating by phone. The Honorable Dewey Destin and myself are here in person, and so is the Honorable Mr. Marcus Chambers. So with that being said, I call this meeting to order, and we'll move down to approval of agenda. And school board members, we do have changes to the agenda. Consent agenda item 8.12, suspension of foreign exchange student program for the 2020-2021 school year was moved to discussion agenda 10.1 at the request of Ms. Vanchek. This discussion agenda added item 10.1, suspension of foreign exchange student program for the 2020-21 school year. With that being said, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move we approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Mr. Destin makes the motion. I need a second. Do I have a second to?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Vanchek. So with that being said, any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Vanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes also, so the approval of the agenda carries 5-0. At this time, we have no recognition, no visitors, no administrative personnel appointments, and we are at public comment 6.1, members of the public desiring to address the school board, form MIS 5241, public input and/or discussion of agenda items. Okay, we'll move on down to item 7, which was for workshop only. Now we're down to section 8, consent agenda. So we need approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved as amended.
As amended. Thank you, Mr. Destin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. White. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Vanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And my vote makes it unanimous, 5-0. So now we'll move down to section 9, superintendent's human resource recommendations. And school board members, just so you know, Dr. Hale is here. 9.1 and 9.2 were informational only. So we'll move down to 9.3, out of field report for the 2019-2020 school year. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
I'll make a second.
Okay, so Dr. Kelly, I hear that you make the motion and Mr. Destin will second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that makes it unanimous, 5-0. Item 9.4, employment separations. I need a motion to approve.
Move we approve.
Mr. Destin makes the motion. I need a second, please.
I'll second it.
Ms. Evancheck seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 9.4 passes unanimous. 9.5, personnel recommendations. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Destin makes the motion. A second, please.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. So we have a motion by Mr. Destin, a second by Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 9.5 passes unanimous. 9.6, leave without pay. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Destin makes the motion. Dr. Kelly, I'll give you the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 9.6 passes unanimous. So now we are to discussion agenda 10.1, suspension of foreign exchange student program for the year for the 2020-2021 school year, and it is open to discussion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think I'll start the discussion since I asked to have it moved.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And so the reason I wanted to move is that we had a citizen who is an advocate for this program who requested that so that we would have some longer time to discuss it. Also, that night we did have a school board member who was not in attendance, so I thought it only fair that we discuss it. And I spoke to Dr. Siminoff about her submission of the letter and her reason. She and her husband have been a host family for a student, and that student's family sent a really great letter in, for the program and everything. However, like I explained to her, with all the reasons that the district has shown of concerns that we have, I believe that she understands why I personally I'm going to have to rule in favor of suspending this program for the next year. But she mainly wanted to be reassured that the program in total was not going away. And I told her that Mrs. Lightbourne and I had a long discussion about that, and it's not that we don't think as a district that this is a good program and a benefit to many. But at this time, with all the elements that we have, I know the superintendent addressed these at the workshop. It just seems like there are too many plates spinning for us to really do this program the way it needs to be done. So I just think that a 1 year suspension of it would probably be the best for all concerned.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Evancheck. So I appreciate your comments. So I'm going to go down the line. Dr. Kelly, any comments regarding this discussion item?
I can just agree with the value of the program, and it does help strengthen the cross-cultural understanding on both ends, both from the visitor and on our end, and certainly the families and the students who are exposed to the other cultures are enriched and enlivened by that exposure. However, I just believe with travel from foreign countries still somewhat under question worldwide, not just in the United States, not just in Florida, I think that we are taking the best precaution that we can, and so I would have to not vote in favor this time. I do also concur with the fact that the program has value enough to keep going in the future when our concerns about health risks have been lifted.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly, for your input. Dr. White, any comments regarding this item?
Well, just to say that I know that the superintendent and his staff have looked at this extensively, and I've, of course, reviewed the things that they've talked with me about and so forth, and I certainly intend to support the superintendent's recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. White. And Mr. Destin, since you were not here Thursday, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I went through the bullet points that the staff gave us and trying to find some consistency and, rational path forward. And I'll just briefly discuss a couple of many unknowns about the reopening of Oakville County School District schools and how and when courses may resume. That's true. But if we follow that premise down the logical conclusion, then we would stop all kinds of programs. And in fact, at the last meeting, we voted to hire some more assistant band directors and assistant principals. It appears that we're moving on the premise that things will be somewhat close to normal. And after all, I just listened to the president tonight. In his speech, he said we'll all be back in good shape by the fall. We'll be going to games and theaters, and the economy is going to turn up. And if he's right, then the exchange student program should go forward. The bullet on we don't want to hold our host families and potential students in limbo. The deadline for enrollment is June the 30th. That's over a month and a half away. The lengthy application process is exactly the same as it was last year. The school board policy on not allowing second semester, if we think it's going to be better in the fall, we can change that. We can change that semester. So that may be an alternative. The host family needs answers, they do, but the fact is if the host families don't get answers and the students don't get answers, then there won't be an application, and the program will have ceased for this year without us taking a stand that we stopped it. And as I went through them, I just couldn't get some consistency in the position on this program and the position we're taking on some other things we're going forward with. Other districts, including Pasco and St. John's, that's 2 out of 67. How many other districts have stopped it? Err on the side of caution, that's one that I really found puzzling. Since we have 1/3 of the world's coronavirus cases and 3% of the world's population, I think they would, if I were them, I'd be afraid to come here, not the other way around. And the CDC guideline, which stated, institution of higher education should consider postponing. That is their opinion, and they certainly have the authority to, and could have, and probably, if they thought it was necessary, would have put public schools in that recommendation. They didn't. So for those reasons, I can't see any reason to cancel the program.
Okay.
And at least if we're going to make a motion to stop it at the moment, I would recommend that we review it and if need be, change the school board policy that would allow second semester enrollment, because by then we will know the answer.
Okay. And, my thoughts on it are exactly that. We just don't know. And, so taking this step to at least for the time being just postpone it, because I think that's a key word. It's postpone. We're not doing away with it. And, just with the uncertainty, having to help them make their decisions and all, I think it's, something I agree with. I respect Mr. Destin's comments along with my other fellow school board members, but, again, it's so fluid. So, Mr. Chambers, I know you want to make some comments regarding this.
Absolutely, and I too appreciate Mr. Destin's comments. I don't think there's a member of the school board or myself or any staff that wants to suspend the foreign language program. It's a great program for us. It's been a great program. I had a conversation with the regional director today, Dale Nicholson, I believe is how you pronounce it. And she even went back to during the 9/11 days when that event happened, and a lot of the foreign exchange programs were suspended, and then many didn't even come back. But here in Okaloosa County, we did. I talked to her specifically about this program because I tried to get a hold of Jeff LeBand, the one who sent us the email, and then he also sent the letter from the family from Germany. And of course, in that letter, this family thinks that we're getting rid of the program forever, which of course we're not. And Mr. Bryant, you said it well, where we're just postponing right now. But even with talking with the regional director, she understood our decision. She said in Texas, where she lives, many of them are doing the exact same thing with the foreign exchange program. So she completely understood our rationale in terms of, being safe, because these are students from other countries who would be coming in. So she understood that as I spoke with her today. The second semester policy, so I looked into that as well. And a lot of the rationalization there is when students come to, the way that it's explained to me, when students come to our country, they're coming for that full year. A lot of times during the beginning of that first semester, they're being acclimated. They're getting used to the country. They're getting used to their friends. And to get the full experience, the way that it was explained to me, you really want that full year, which is why we put that board policy in place a number of years back, or however far back. But that was some of the information. Also, we didn't call every district, but we did go out to many districts, and some do not have the foreign exchange program at all, like Walton County. But then some who did reply to us, Bay County, they've suspended the program for next year. Broward County has suspended it until further notice. Orange County has suspended it. Osceola County has suspended it. Pascal, like we know, has suspended it. And St. John's has suspended it. And of course, we didn't get all 67, but these are just a number who are also doing this. So my recommendation to suspend is obviously it's not an indictment to the program. We love the program, want the program. It's just where we are right now with what we know about the COVID-19.
I'd have just one further comment, and I understand we're suspending, but the experience that some of these folks did have with 9/11 and the schools who never picked it back up makes them very fearful that a suspension will turn into a termination if it's not brought back up. I also talked to one of the families who said if it's a safety issue, it's completely within our authority to require a test when they come, and to make sure that they are not infected. And we still have, after speaking to another one of the families, I guess we still have some students that are in the program that are here now and who are still participating and will not be leaving until August, and who are thrilled with whatever it is we're offering them at the moment. And it just bothers me that we're jumping on the scare wagon. We're perpetuating the fear that's in our society at the moment as I see it, no real rational basis. But everybody has to vote their conscience on this, and I respect that.
I do. I have a comment regarding, you're talking about the us maybe jumping ahead on this. So my question, and I truly respect your thoughts on this, but directing this at Mr. Chambers, even though June 30th is the cutoff date, if something was to change before that, is that something we could come back to this board and maybe reinstate it, or is this something that, is this something that's going to be final after tonight?
Well, and I would say the question was posed to me on Thursday, is this my recommendation? So it is my recommendation. Am I the person who's going to be rigid and just black and white and no gray? The answer to that would be no. Part of the reason why this recommendation is here, just like other counties, is so families know who normally host, and so others who are foreign exchange students in other countries know, so they can make plans accordingly. I say all that to say, because we're not just doing this, just doing it whimsically.
Right.
But if something were to change substantially from the CDC, then that could be a different story. But I don't want to make this look as though this recommendation is anything other than based on the facts that we have right now. And what we go by, just like other superintendents right now, is what CDC recommends. And I get that we don't want to just be fearful on everything, so I get that, Mr. Destin. But when the CDC recommends institutes of higher education consider postponing or canceling upcoming student foreign exchange programs, that's a meaningful statement. So that's where I come from. But if things were to change, then I would not be rigid.
Well, that's good, but I would point out it specifically does not say public education, and usually there's a reason for that.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion from my fellow school board members on the phone regarding item 10.1? Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to, excuse me, Mr. Oh, okay, hearing none, I need a motion to approve item 10.1, the suspension of foreign exchange student program for the 2020-2021 school year. I need a motion to approve.
I'll make the
I
motion.
move.
Okay, so Dr. White, I heard you make the motion to approve, and I think it was Dr. Kelly who I heard second it.
I think it was Miss Ivanchek
Okay,
this time.
Ms. Ivanchek, thank you, Dr. Kelly. So we have a motion by Dr.
Yes.
White, a second by Ms. Ivanchek. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
I will vote no.
Mr. Destin votes no. Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I will vote yes also, so the motion carries 4-1 that we will suspend for this year. Okay. So we'll move down to item 11, construction program owners representative business, and Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Chairman. We had our meeting this morning, and basically we were proceeding on our tasks. We have Knightsville High Schools, mostly roofs. That one is going well. The district-wide security program is going quite ahead of schedule. There's a silver lining, I guess. Not having kids in school allows them to work a little faster and be able to get things done. Fluorosa, their pickup relocation has proceeded and is really working better than we expected. As Dr. Smith said, I hope it's just the fact that there's not any traffic on the road now, but everybody seems pretty pleased with that. The Baker School renovation is proceeding. We're still trying to get some better estimates of the cost, but that one is moving along. Stadium at Choctaw is, as you remember, we allocated some more money, and they anticipate that will be completely done shortly, and that it is at a point where it would be suitable to use at any time. Pryor Middle School, we're working on their kitchen renovation. Longwood Elementary, we are working on quarters and site fencing, and we're trying to get a bigger or better handle on exactly what that's going to cost so that we can proceed to the notice on what we're going to spend and when we're going to do it. We had 3 points of new business. Kenwood Cafeteria, we're working on their roof. Crestview High Stadium, I don't know if we discussed it, but we're giving it the kind of inspection that Choctaw got, and we anticipate there will be some repairs, although initial review shows that it shouldn't be nearly as extensive, we hope. And Meigs Middle School parking, they've put the fences up, and we need to modify the parking some way in order to get the necessary parking back in now that the fences are blocking some of the access, but they're working on that plan, and we hope to have that ready for next construction meeting.
Awesome. All right. Anything else, Mr. Destin?
That'll cover it.
School board members, any questions or comments for Mr. Destin? Okay.
None.
All right. Hearing none, we'll move down to Mr. McInnes, your business.
Mr. Chairman, one item tonight, I need to request that the board allow us to schedule a special board meeting to conduct an attorney-client session regarding pending litigation. The case is case number 2015 CA 801, which is pending in the Circuit Court in Far Okaloosa County. We would request the special meeting be scheduled for May the 21st, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. here in the training room.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve Mr. McInnes's request. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. White. So we have a motion by Mr. Destin, a second by Dr. White. Any questions for Mr. McInnes or comments? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And my vote makes it 5-0, passes unanimous. So now any other business?
That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. McInnes. Mr. Chambers, your business.
All right, I appreciate it. I'm going to be brief. Spoke a lot on Thursday. I just want to reiterate that we had an excellent Teacher Appreciation Week this past week. A lot of the schools did really neat things for their teachers. So really appreciate all that our teachers do each and every day, especially in this new environment that we are in. But our principals really got creative in the ways that they supported their teachers. So that was kind of neat to see. I also shared it was National Principals Day. I believe that was May 1st now. So just shout out to our principals for the amazing work that they do. And then I'm going to have Mr. Horton come up and just brief us a little bit on the Auntie Mitchell Awards. But as he does come up, as you know, we do a big celebration of our students at the Mattie Kelly Art Center, which is well deserved. And I know Mr. Bryant has brought up, and other board members, how are we going to really celebrate our Auntie Mitchell kids well. So we will be doing something at the next board meeting where we will recognize each of the Auntie Mitchell Award winners, as well as the overall Peggy Bruner Award winner. So we will have that, but we also wanted to make sure that we did a little bit more, or a lot of it more, to really celebrate these students and their academic achievements. So Mr. Horton, if you'd kind of brief us.
Yes, sir, thanks. So board members, you might know that every year the high schools individually have a SPADIA, is what it's called, where all of the graduates of that particular high school class are recognized in the newspaper with their names. What we're going to do is before that period of time, I've worked with Ms. Crawford and Ms. McGowan to kind of take a look at those Auntie Mitchell Award honorees, and we'll do a special piece in the newspaper. We're working with them right now to develop that. Will include all of those students who have earned those recognitions at each school. It'll include some photographs of some of our top nominees for the Peggy Gorday Bruner Award, without giving away anything, but just potentially putting out the nominees, and then also having some quotes potentially from school principals, but make it a nice keepsake for families, as those students need and deserve to be recognized for their accomplishments over the last 4 years. So we're working with the Daily News to do that, and looking at sometime toward the middle or end of next week for that to come out in the newspaper, recognizing those students.
All right.
And I might be looking for a quote from you too, Mr. Chairman Bryant.
Okay. Any comments from Mr. Destin?
I'm just proud that we're going to be able to do something in this climate. It's really tough for the kids that excel and get those awards, not to get the kind of recognition that we usually do.
Right. Ms. Ivanchek, any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Kelly
No, thanks.
and Dr. White.
Well, no, unless we're moving on to board members' announcements.
Right. Well, we are. I just wanted to see if y'all had any questions for Mr. Horton regarding that.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, my only comment is I know I'll be here Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I know myself and Mr. Chambers are going to be personally signing 488 letters going out to these students. So, and the principals of those respective schools will also be doing it. So.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Chambers.
That is it.
All right. Thank you, sir. So we will now move to school board members' business, and I will start with Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Chairman. I had one question. We all got our budget books, and Mr. Horton, if you could tell us our funds are based on our estimated FTEs. We got to start from somewhere. Where are we starting on our funds that we have available that we're budgeting there?
And I'll defer to Rita on many of those things, but we did projections for enrollment back in January of this year for next school year. And so the budget books and the allocations are based on those projections that have been made. And I would say that even at that time, we did some conservative allocating, and I work very closely with the schools to make sure that the teaching positions that they have are based on actual enrollment. So we're not fully staffed right now. That's something that we need to wait to see for students' bodies to be in seats in some cases, and so that process will work through the summer as we continue to get enrollments. But that's what the initial funding is based on across all districts in Florida, based upon the projections that were made back in January.
And that's what gives me some trepidation, of course, and I'm sure it does you too. I understand we have to start somewhere. I would say January projections are not going to be very realistic, and somewhere along this process, we're going to have to step back and change a lot of things. You know, and as you know as well as I, predictions which are mixed coming out of Tallahassee are reduction in funds, 10%, 20%, and we all know when you do that math what it comes out to. And so I don't envy you the job, because how do you make a projection on that which is unprojectable? But we just need to all bear in mind that this is going to be a process that we really don't know how it's going to come out till we get to the end of it.
Yes, sir. You're correct with that. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Hey, Mr. Destin, if you don't mind, so one, I think I think the board will feel good that one of the things, and Dr. White had brought this up once before, and I think it's a great point that you're making, Mr. Destin. Mr. Horton, as you know, he really goes out to each school. He sits down, he looks at their numbers, looks at their projections, looks at their teacher allocations, and then where are we for next year? And especially this year, we want to be very conservative. But then we also know there's different topics coming out of Tallahassee in terms of whether there's not going to be a reduction, whether there will be a reduction. We know that out of Tallahassee it's been said that we should be pretty good. However, I think the board would know we are going through a process right now where we are looking at different percentage cuts, because we do not want to be reactive if in fact something did happen. So we have started that process, and it was kind of brought up at one of I think a couple board meetings ago. So we have started that process. So we will be doing that. Of course, you know, I think we are blessed with having, if not the best, one of the best CFOs in the state of Florida. So she's helping guide us through this as well. But we will be prepared if in fact we have to reduce. We will be prepared and hope that we do not have to, and that we can go into the next school year in glowing fashion, but we will see what happens, but we will be prepared for reductions if in fact they do come.
That makes me feel a little more comfortable. Mr. Horton, kindergarten or pre-K enrollments, are they any kind of indicator of FTE as it goes on down? I know that I've heard that sometimes is an indicator we can look at.
Well, in kindergarten right now, I was just tracking admitted numbers of students for next year, and obviously because schools have been closed for the last month or so, kindergarten registrations have not been occurring, but I just previewed our online registration tool today that will allow our parents, because they've been calling the schools and asking to go ahead and register their kindergarten students. We'll post that on our website, and they'll be able to do that. So yeah, it's a leading indicator in terms of what kind of enrollment we can expect to have happen. So we typically look for about 2,300 to 2,400 kindergarten students. Almost half of those come after the last week of July, late in the game. And so what we want to do right now is get out and get the word out that we're going to be taking these registrations now, so we can at least get into the system that they're going to be attending next fall. And one way or the other, whatever the model is, and we've been looking at that as well, in terms of how we're going to be educating kids next fall, and the hope is we're all back in schools and doing it full-time in schools. But if not, we have to be positioned to be able to offer services to all of our students, whether it be through a virtual component or a blended component or something, so that we're educating the families that are in our school district.
And that's good to hear. And I'm glad that you're going the length to try to get them to pre-register, or at least give you some idea, and hopefully we will have a better handle on that by the time we get to the actual budgeting process, which can help us somewhat, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Any other comments, Mr.
No,
President?
nothing
Thank-
else for me.
Thank you, sir. We'll start with Dr. White. Any comments tonight, sir?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the first thing is I'd like to, commend the superintendent for his editorial prowess in the newspaper, in that I've enjoyed reading his special columns regarding the school district, and I felt that they were very informative. So, first of all, thank you, Mr. Chambers, for doing that.
Thank you, sir.
And then, second of all, regarding the newspaper, some folks may have seen that at Choctawhatchee High School, Mr. C.J. Matthews was named the Large Schools Player of the Year, and that article was in the Daily News on May the 3rd, and if you had a chance to see him play, then you know exactly why Coach Andy Thigpen, who was also named the Large Schools Coach of the Year on at least two previous occasions, why Coach Thigpen said that CJ is like having another coach on the court. And I think that's probably the highest compliment that you can pay to a player on the basketball court. So that's really all I have tonight, but I just thought that those two deserve some special recognition.
Thank you, Dr. White. And Dr. Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I just have a couple of quick things. First of all, I just want to give kudos to our school administrators. I know I very often brag on our teachers, but our administrators really did a phenomenal job on acknowledging their teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week, many of them going out and putting signs in yards and delivering baskets. So I think our administrators are very creative in acknowledging their teachers on Teacher Appreciation Week, as well as what all of our high school principals have done to support their seniors with the banners and the billboards, and I just think that's pretty phenomenal. So kudos to our school-based administrators for those things. And then lastly, I would just like to thank once again, because I know probably more people are listening at a board meeting than who tune in during our board workshops. Thank you to all the educators and support personnel and some district staff who played along with my Zoom on trivia basket giveaway for the last 2 weeks. I have suspended that for now, but I do plan to revive it later on at various points to honor our educators. So thank you again. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And Ms. Savanchek.
Yes, sir. Couple of things. First of all, I want to say how much I appreciate the district staff and the principals and everyone at the school for continuing to do the best for our students. This has been going on several weeks now, and we all know that we get weary at this time of the year, but this year, of course, is extra things on us. So I just want them, say to them, hang in there, and that we really do appreciate what they're doing. Also, as you know, and letting the public know, I am the representative from our board for the Public Schools Foundation. And this Friday, May 15th, the foundation, along with the district, Feeding the Gulf Coast, the United Way, and the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, we're hosting a food distribution, and it will be at noon at Choctawhatchee High School's parking lot by the stadium. And this is a no-contact, following CDC guidelines event where you just come up and you open up your trunk and you'll be given a box of food put into your trunk, and then you can drive off. This is open to everybody. Nobody's going to be questioned. No one will be embarrassed. We want everyone who needs the food, particularly for our students, to please show up and get this. And again, this is partially sponsored by our Okaloosa County Public Schools Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Savanchek. And my closing comments will be, first of all, I would like to thank my fellow school board members for all that they are doing outside of their normal job duties to show support for our schools and our employees throughout the district. I commend each of y'all. I see that y'all are all out there doing something, so kudos to the board. Also, kudos to the district, the superintendent, everybody on all the schools that are doing their best in communicating. If anything that we have done, I feel that we have really excelled at is communicating to our parents, our students. We have done, in my opinion, a phenomenal job. Each school, it's hard to keep up with them because they're always putting stuff out there on social media or whether it's via their website. So thank you to everybody who's out there doing their best to communicate and trying to have things kind of go seamlessly throughout each of the schools. I will tell you, I visited 10 of my schools in District 4 today, and several of them were doing pickup, letting parents and students come and get stuff and out of their lockers or wherever it might be. And 3 of the schools were really doing a really great job with it today. So I know all the schools are planning something. So take a look at your particular school's website or their Facebook page and see when the pickups are. So I will commend everybody throughout the district that's doing a great job of trying to bring some type of normalcy toward the end of the school year. And so with that being said, we'll move down to item 16 and public comment. So before I adjourn, Ms. Scallon, anything? Mr. Horton, anything? Okay, this meeting's adjourned.